You're standing in the rain outside a cafe you used to frequent together. Through the fogged glass, you see them laughing with someone new, their head tilted in that familiar way. The way you once believed was reserved for you. Your phone buzzes. A message from them. I miss you. But their eyes never leave the stranger's face. Here's the contradiction that will gut you. What they miss isn't you. It's the version of themselves they became when they were with you. The version that felt powerful when you praised them, whole when you forgave them, heroic when you needed them. You were not a person to them. You were a mirror, polished to reflect their finest illusion. Ask yourself, when they say your name, do they see the scars they carved into your trust, or just the glow of their own reflection? When they claim to miss your laugh, do they ache for the sound, or the ego stroke of having caused it? This is the silent violence of modern connection. We are not loved. We are used. Our humanity reduced to a utility, a salve for wounds they refuse to name, a distraction from the void they refuse to face. The psychologist Carl Jung called this projection the act of painting our unmet needs onto another person like a canvas. But here's what he didn't warn us. When the canvas begins to speak, to demand its own colors, the painter flees, and yet, you still check your phone. You still dissect old texts for hidden meanings, as if I miss you could ever mean I see you. Why? Because the lie is seductive. If they miss you, you matter. If they crave your ghost, you must have been real. But what if the truth is darker and ultimately more freeing? What if their longing has nothing to do with you? At all, you don't fall in love with people. You fall in love with salvation. This is the fatal flaw Jung warned of. We are all unconscious alchemists, turning lovers into saviors, relationships into religions. When Nietzsche declared, God is dead, he failed to predict what we'd replace him with. Romantic partners assigned the sacred duty of filling our existential voids. We worship at the altar of their attention, mistake attachment for transcendence, and call it chemistry. But this is not love. It is spiritual outsourcing. The problem begins in childhood, where fairy tales and Disney princesses plant a seed. You are incomplete until someone chooses you. By adolescence, pop songs and rom-coms water it with lies. Love is fireworks. Love is obsession. Love is losing yourself. By adulthood, we've built a cathedral of need, a shrine to the belief that another person's desire can baptize us worthy. Gabor Mate's work on addiction reveals the truth. The dopamine hit of a text notification mirrors the rush of a gambler at a slot machine. We're not bonding, we're betting. But the deepest wound is philosophical. Kierkegaard called this the despair of weakness, the terror of facing oneself, naked and unconsoled. So we cling to others like existential life rafts, demanding they silence the questions we refuse to ask. Who am I when no one is watching? What fills me when no one is pouring? Society weaponizes this fear. Consumer capitalism, with its dating, apps peddling infinite choice, and self-help gurus selling relationship hacks, turns love into a marketplace. Your worth becomes a stock price, fluctuating with every match, every unanswered text. Huxley's Brave New World warned us, we're conditioned to crave the very things that enslave us, and spirituality. We've perverted that too. The mystic's cry for union with the divine has been reduced to, I need you to complete me. The Buddhist concept of tanha, craving, the root of suffering, is now a Spotify playlist of breakup songs. Here's what no one tells you. You cannot love someone until you've met yourself in the void. Not the self they reflect, not the self they desire. The unlit, uncurated self that exists beyond their gaze. But to meet her, you'd have to stop running. You wake to the sound of your own heartbeat. Not the steady rhythm of a living thing, but the erratic thrum of a machine stuck on loop. You check your phone first thing, not for the weather or news, but for proof. A like, a reply, a breadcrumb of attention that whispers, you still exist. This is the neurological tax of unrequited longing, Your brain, once a cathedral of complexity, now a slot machine. Every notification triggers a dopamine surge. Every "Hey stranger" text floods the system with cortisol. You're not a person. You're a lab rat pressing a lever labeled "Validate me." The fallout is societal too. Dating apps, those digital colosseums, turn intimacy into a game of swipes and metrics. You curate photos like a desperate museum director, auctioning your smile, your hobbies, your trauma. Algorithms reward performance, not truth. A 2023 study found that 63% of users lie about their interests to appear more likable. We've outsourced attraction to machines that reduce chemistry to data points, leaving us emptier with every match. But the true carnage is spiritual. When you conflate being wanted with being worthy, you amputate your soul. Viktor Frankl's will to meaning becomes a will to be missed. You cling to toxic relationships like ancient sailors clung to mermaids, drowning in the illusion of salvation. The sunk cost fallacy tightens its grip. I've given so much. If I leave, who was I all those years? Cognitive biases conspire against you. Confirmation bias filters out their indifference, recasting crumbs as feasts. Trauma bonds, those neural pathways forged in fear, make their intermittent affection feel like oxygen. You become a ghost in your own life, haunting past conversations, future fantasies everywhere but here, and the world profits. A 12 billion self-help industry sells you meditation sto, manifest love, as if desire weary a parking spot. Therapists charge 12 billion self-help industry sells you meditation sto, manifest love, as if desire weary a parking spot. Therapists charge 200 hour to untangle, not someone else tied. Even spirituality is corrupted. The sacred mantra, "You are enough," drowned out by the louder scream. But what if I'm not? Here's what they won't tell you. The more you beg to be needed, the less you can ever be loved. You stop begging to be someone's sanctuary and become your own. This is the rebellion Jung foresaw. Individuation, the violent, glorious act of reclaiming every shard of yourself you've handed to others like devotional offerings. Nietzsche called it becoming who you are, but he omitted the cost. You must incinerate the person they taught you to be. Begin here. Cease being a remedy for their emptiness. When they text, "I miss you," respond with silence. Not to punish, but to disrupt the addiction cycle. Let them detox from your validation. Let them feel the withdrawal of your reflection. Watch how quickly their love curdles into rage. The rage of an addict denied their fix. Now turn the scalpel inward. Spend 40 days in the desert of your own soul. No dating apps, no stalking, no nostalgic playlists. In this void, you'll meet your shadow, the parts of yourself you abandoned to be loved. The ambition they called too much, the sensitivity they mocked as weakness, the darkness that terrified their fragile ego. Jung warned, the shadow is the seat of creativity. But first it's a funeral. Mourn the person you amputated to fit their narrative. Rebuild, using Viktor Frankl's paradoxical intention. Instead of begging, "Choose me," ask, "What will I create with this unspent love?" Paint with it, write with it. Build a business, plant a garden, learn to tango. Redirect the obsessive energy once spent on them into a force that terrifies the mediocre. Societal myths will scream, "This is selfish." Good. Capitalism thrives on your insecurity. Your liberation bankrupts its markets. When you stop buying courses to fix yourself, stop paying therapists to process their damage, stop purchasing makeup to mask your flaws, you become economically ungovernable. The spiritual key: stop seeking union and become the universe. The Sufi poet Rumi didn't write, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop," to romanticize lovers. He was issuing a war cry. Your worth isn't negotiated in relationships. It's radiometric, decaying only when you betray your truth. You'll know the rebellion is working when their absence feels like space, not lack. When memories of them fade into background static behind the symphony of your becoming. You were never less than enough. You were more, and that terrified them. This is the nuclear truth. Love does not live in the space between two people. It lives in the collision of two entire universes. The kind of love that reshapes galaxies isn't about filling voids, it's about mutual expansion. Jung called this conjunctio, the alchemical marriage, where both partners descend into their shadows and return bearing light. But first, you must become your own sun. Here's the paradigm shift that will scorch and sanctify you. Their missing you was never about loss. It was about hunger, a hunger for the power you gave them, to define you, shrink you, cradle their fragility in your cupped hands. Nietzsche understood this when he wrote, "To see others suffer does one good, to make others suffer even more so. Your pain was their sacrament, your longing, their altar, but the joke is on them." By leaving, they gifted you the one thing you craved, the abyss. That yawning void where their whispers once echoed. It's not empty, it's pregnant. A womb for the self you abandoned at the crossroads of who are you, and who do they need you to be. The mystic Rumi didn't write love poems to humans. He wrote them to the divine ache of becoming. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean, begging yourself to wake up. So wake up. The ultimate rebellion is this. Stop seeking. Love and incarnate it. Not the hallmark hologram, but the feral, untamed force that survives apocalypses. Love that doesn't need, it is. When you stand at the edge of your next beginning, you'll feel it. The difference between being wanted and being free. Between being someone's drug and being your own religion. Let them miss the ghost you've outgrown haunting. Here, in the ashes of their absence, plant this truth. You are not loved because you're worthy. You're worthy because you love yourself, recklessly, defiantly, without apology. The final paradox: the moment you stop fearing their forgetting, you become unforgettable.